Hey everyone, Cody Menz. Got another What's New video for you guys. This week, going over, there's still some Q&A stuff that I definitely haven't covered over the past couple weeks. We also have, the Road to Berlin event and some other little tidbits. Let's start out with, basically what's going on. So this weekend, NA-wise, we have a experience bonus weekend. There's some nice little missions that you can complete. Seems pretty easy enough, and you can get some bonuses. Running basically today until very early on Monday. Now, looking at May in general, we do have tank rewards coming up May 5th. May 3rd, the Road to Berlin starts, a new PvE event. Kind of like Homefront last year, but now we're attacking things, and there's going to be a premium tank up for grabs as far as playing. And more or less throughout May, there's some tidbits, some on-track stuff for the Object 268 light tank, or the or T100 light tank. Let me say that. So some nice little stuff. Mainly, though, the Road to Berlin is going to be the most interesting part. Starting very soon here. They have a nice little video. To kind of boil it down though, we're going to be attacking basically across some reworked maps and also a new map called Berlin that eventually is going to make its way into the 15 verse 15 map queue. Basically, attacking here, you're going to have different stages where you're attacking, kind of repelling and counterattacked, so on and so forth, and then at the very end, destroying a command vehicle. You will be able to respawn, however, it's a little complicated where you basically earn additional respawns and stuff by completing missions and this and that. It depends on how well you're doing and also how well your team's doing. So definitely read this article. It explains it. It's a little bit too much to kind of go off the top of my head here. And, something that is nice is you can earn basically some freebies, some training booklets, but also you can see that there's a discount for the IS-2 Shielded, which, will be, this is sort of like a different marathon in a sense, where if you play the mode, you do well in the mode, across, when it's open, you could possibly get this tank for free. It's basically a remake in a sense of the IS-2 that we already have in the game. However, it does have some like added space armor and stuff like that. And, it's going to be pretty interesting. And the main prize is bounty ventilation, which, a lot of people are probably going to be trying to work hard for, since, it's a pretty nice little, tidbit thrown in there, since essentially it's approved equipment, except for, you have to spend 3 million credits to improve it there. There are different, basically, factions or groups, units, I guess, is the word that they use. That's what I probably should say, that you can pick. A lot of people are going to be like, probably, Russian bias. There's 3 Russian ones. Well, we are attacking Berlin, and yeah, I can see why there's 3 Russian ones. There's an American one and a British one as well, all with different perks and stuff like that for you to be able to play. But yeah, as far as the tank goes, like, is it worth grabbing this thing? The IS-2 tanks, in the tech tree and premiums already, they're pretty good. But this one, it's not going to be revolutionary as far as like new gameplay or anything, but it's, it's a premium tank. It's decent. It's a tier 7, so especially for like free-to-play players or people that like Russian heavies, this is a good option for you to get this tank either very cheap or, basically for free if you play enough. Now, there are some redesigned maps and also the new map Berlin. There's some music that they put in here, and basically from what they say, come May 8th, it's going to be unlocked on May 8th, and then there's going to be a very decent chance for you to get on Berlin. They're going to basically bump it up, that way you get it a little bit more often than the other maps, and basically you need the high level units to participate on it, and you get more victory points. So there are some catches, like any mode that Wargaming brings. But I'm pretty excited for this. I think it'll be fun to play, and you can platoon, I believe, with up to 5 people, because it's basically 5 of you versus all the bots. Now, this is basically on the Russian server. I don't think we're going to get this, but it seems pretty interesting that for the entire month, of May, that they're actually getting discounts on the 60 TP, and also the UDES 1516 Batchat 25p. seems pretty interesting, pretty neat for them. However, why I have this brought up here is there's actually a 3D style, which as you move over here, there's a few extra pictures with all of these links. I always say this at the beginning of the video, I forgot. All these links are in the order of how you see them on here, basically, so you can click over and kind of read more if you want to see larger pictures, or, you know, read, because there's little Q&As here as well, that I kind of reference when I made my own I guess transcription or whatever the hell of it. But in any event, there's a new ski patrol style for the UDES here. You know, it doesn't look anything like extravagant, but you know, it's something that's neat. It doesn't look bad. It's nothing like a giant crane hanging off your Kranwagen or something. So yeah, I'm sure people will pick it up, but no news on whether or not we'll see it here on like the NA server and stuff like that. Now these Q&As, like I said, they basically pop over. I would definitely read these because I cut out kind of the most important bits, and you know, I use my own words when it comes to what they said here, so I definitely, not to say dumb it down, but I definitely shrink it down, because these are like the full basically, you know, what they said during the streams. But 2 streams from the WoT developers, you know, over on the Russian server, and basically, you know, the one that we did on the NA server I think went pretty well last week. I think you guys really enjoyed that, and you liked the YouTube video I put out kind of going over it, even though it was very long. Trying to keep this a little bit shorter here, so let's get right into the Q&A. Something else that ended, you know, the scavenger hunt is now over. You know, thank you for anyone that participated in that. You know, hopefully you guys got some goodies from that, and you know, maybe we'll see it again. I'm hopeful, but only time will tell. Alright, so anyway, Steel Hunter. Basically, they asked, how does Steel Hunter come to be? Basically, it started out as this kind of like a fun little side project for some of their developers, because they liked other Battle Royale games when they were really popular, say like 3+ years ago, even though they still are now. And kind of that's evolved into Steel Hunter. They actually did a sandbox test for the Battle Royale event, for anyone that remembers, and it actually took place on the frontline map Normandy, and was very different from what we have in Steel Hunter now, but it's basically involved in a Steel Hunter now. This year they are trying to remove some of the amount of buttons you have to press in Steel Hunter, because it's way more than standard battles. You know, they want to basically reduce that, and then they also want to bring Steel Hunter into the game more. Basically 2021, that'll be it. You know, this year we're going to see it much like Frontline. There's going to be 4 basically iterations of Steel Hunter coming up later in the year, and that's it. But 2021 they plan on bringing it back more frequently, or maybe, you know, kind of alternating between Frontline and Steel Hunter. That probably would be better. So all the issues with wheel tanks that were introduced with 1.9, you know, they weren't really intentional. There is some issues with like the mobility and turning and accelerating and this and that. It's kind of independent, like it was a physics issue apparently. Because they still do plan on rebalancing the wheel tanks, you know, coming up soon here, and specifically they want to fix like the toxic gameplay elements. So they want to start with basically, and I've addressed this on Q&As before, nerfing or not nerfing, but basically increasing the terrain resistance for each wheel that gets damaged, thus kind of providing more risk for them. They're afraid to basically start nerfing other aspects of them first, because say like damage, you know, potential stuff like that, they see the issue of wheel tanks right now is basically, yes they're fast, yes they're mobile, but there's not enough risk for them actually getting, say, detracked like another light tank, so they're adding that in first to see if that brings them down a bit before addressing other aspects. They actually rolled back basically some improvements they made to like graphics and like the field of view. They rolled it back to 1.7.1 because apparently some people are having issue with widescreen monitors, so that shouldn't be an issue anymore. They're considering the option, and this came up in a Q&A on the WoT NA stream, to allow people to rent premium, reward tanks, stuff like that outside of, you know, Frontline, because that's already in Frontline. Basically, those fights won't be applied to your service record, but you'll be able to rent and try out a tank maybe before you buy it. They're starting basically early development of that right now. The ST2 is basically performing pretty well, like it's right at or right above, you know, the middle of the pack, damage-wise for tier 10s, specifically heavies, and also win percentage, so it's pretty well balanced. I would agree with that. So SPGs, they're kind of settled on, you know, their rework and rebalance that they're going to be doing, and we should have a sandbox of that coming up this year again, because that was the main issue with the shell rework, were SPGs and HE shells. But they're settled on bringing multiple shells that serve different purposes, basically in this rework. They want to basically separate them so it's not damage, stun, and splash all in one shell like it is right now, where you have a standard and this premium version that's flat out better. It makes it really frustrating to get hit by those, which I think a lot of people would agree. So they want to add more tactical decision making, where you have to pick one that's primary role is damage, one that's basically say splash but low damage, maybe no stun, and one that is basically, you know, stun. There was some talk, which the translation was a little odd. That's where I definitely recommend popping over to the links to read those, but I didn't include it because it talked about having a shell designed to hit fast mobile tanks. So I didn't want to include that because I wasn't comfortable with trying to figure out what that meant, because that scares me a bit if they would add that in. What I could see them doing though is having like a HE round that does stun but low damage. You know, stun, low damage, like really low damage for an HE shell. Like say if something did like 1,000 damage now, cutting that down to like 400 or something, but having a lot of splash range. That way you could debuff people but do like minimum damage and almost no damage to like heavy tanks and mediums, but it would actually allow you to hit like fast tanks. But I think that would be pretty bad because that would piss people off. And then otherwise having say a damage shell and, you know, basically a standard HE shell or something, who knows. But I didn't include that because I think the translation's off. Anyway, moving on, because I'm sure I pissed some people off with that, and you guys are typing in the YouTube comment section. There'll be new crew skills, perks, and equipment for reducing basically HE damage. I'm sure we'll see some for stun as well. There's a bug that SPGs currently have where they're not turning blue for shooting themselves and blowing themselves up with HE. Wargaming knows about it. They said apparently their system of detecting automated bots is basically better and pretty effective. Yeah, I think it still needs improvement, but that's what they said. You know, these come from these Q&As, you know, wargaming developers, but some of them are their own opinions, you know. It's not like it's like an official press release. There's an issue right now where, you know, people are bringing it up, and I've seen it, where destroyed tank models are different than the live model. So sometimes you can't shoot certain places, like through them to another tank behind it, even though it looks like it. They're aware of it. They said it's never going to be a perfect, you know, model, you know, the same, but they are, you know, looking into it. They don't have any plans to allow you to choose a map in frontline because it would cause matchmaking issues. There's going to be a large update involving in-game communication this year, and it's going to be on the sandbox testing. Basically like mini-map upgrades, like frontline pinging coming to standard battles. Instead of being able to just ping a square, you're going to be able to pin, you know, a specific spot. And I believe they're improving, say, like, you know, right now, like the F7 and buttons like that, where it just shoots out like a little standard message. They'll probably improve that from my understanding. They've been working on that for a bit. They want to bring the 7v7 brawl mode back into the game more frequently. New equipment. There will be a new equipment piece apparently in the 2.0 rework that will increase shell velocity on your tank. That seems interesting, but you know, if you have to give up, say, like a faster reload speed, is it really worth it? Probably not. Improvements to the Marks of Excellence system, especially with a better explanation being added into the client. Improvements to daily missions, and specifically they said like certain things aren't dropping as much as they should, like demounting kits and stuff, but they do drop apparently, just very low. They're going to be improving that. Corridors basically, so this, you know, annoys me a little bit, but I get it. I don't agree with it, but I get it. So corridors on a lot of maps are kind of needed because they're easier to play for a lot of people who are, say, casual players, or, you know, they don't really care how well they do. There's nothing wrong with that, but basically they don't want to remove corridors, especially on some older maps, because it would hurt basically that player base, which is actually a pretty significant amount of the game. They said they don't want to redo some maps, but they will if there's a large discrepancy between win percentages on each side, which, moving down to the next one, they are currently reworking Bruenberg because there's a huge win percentage difference versus, you know, north and south. So they're going to be reworking Bruenberg. Apparently Misc is one of the most balanced maps in the game when it comes to win percentage per side, you know, north versus south. I find that a little surprising, but you know, that's what they said. The bug with the brawl music, next time we see it, it's going to be fixed. Yay. T33D style will be available soon, like basically a preview to show off what it looks like. They're probably just touching up little, you know, details. Equipment 2.0 is going to carry over basically the normal, the bounty, and the improve equipment roles, so you don't have to worry about your equipment transferring over. Only new equipment and buffs to equipment, like rebalances, are coming. They're not going to basically be nerfing equipment that's already in the game or adding in like negative attributes to it. 6th Sense is going to be available to all tanks by default. I'm pretty sure I've covered that, but I added it in again. And there's also going to be crew perks and skills to improve 6th Sense even further versus the default setting. Basically added equipment into 2.0 equipment rework to explain it better. I really hope they explain vertical stabilizers and stuff better for the people in the garage, because a lot of people don't understand how it works. Add information, or I guess bleh, I guess said that. Tier 1 to 4 are going to have fewer equipment slots, say like 1 or 2 slots, versus say mid tiers with say 3 or 4 slots, you know, stuff like that, and high tiers that have the most. Kind of like World of Warships, how that works out there. Flipping your tank over, you know, they have that in Steel Hunter. Basically, they're still deciding on whether or not it's worth it to bring it into standard battles, because it might allow, say, like light tanks, wheel tanks, stuff like that, basically to drive more recklessly with less penalties. And also, say, if you flip an enemy over, they shouldn't be able to flip themselves back over, you know, if you're the one that did it. So they're figuring out if they actually want to bring that to random battles. Small maps, basically, and this came up in a Wargaming NA Q&A at tier 10. There's no plans to basically change them showing up in the queue right now or rebalance them. Mountain Pass is currently being reworked to fix the southern part of the map. Basically, the southern team, you know, when you're driving across these, you know, southern pass there to the western side of the map, you just get peppered with shots compared to the north, because you're spotted 100% of the time if there's a light tank or a medium tank on the other team, you know, spotting that area. Whereas the northern team, you can slip through with a tank without being spotted. So they're reworking that right now, trying to fix that. And also, if you're hitting the ground a lot when sniper vode, like shooting over hills and stuff like that, they said turn off terrain tessellation, because that basically makes it look prettier. However, it doesn't give you the most accurate representation of what the server sees, you know, before that. In any event, though, I managed to keep this under 20 minutes this video. I am very proud of myself, because my last video was like 7 hours. You know, thanks a lot for watching. You know, thanks a lot for participating in a scavenger hunt again, since, you know, pretty much ended last night. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you next week with some interesting news. I hope these Q&As keep up. I like all of this info. You know, let me know in the comment section if anything, you know, stood out, what you're excited for, what you're not excited for, stuff like that. You know, Levi's back there, he's taking a nap, and yeah, I think it's time for us to go outside and play a little bit. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.